Welcome back to Talk of the Town on 99.7, 1450 WHTC and WHTC.com.
And we welcome you back to Talk of the Town for this Friday, May 15th. I'm Gary Stevens. We'll be open line following the 11 o'clock news. And we'll have the WHTC Midday Report coming away in an hour. But on this third Friday of the month, not dressed in sartorial splendor as one Don Cherry would, but he is donning the apparel of the legacy of Pete Carmanos. Allegan County Clerk and hockey aficionado Bob Genetski joins us. Bob, good morning and welcome back to Talk of the Town.
Good morning, Gary. It's great to be back on Talk of the Town.
Yeah. For those of us who are not watching the Zoom connection, and by the way, we will have this video on our webpage, on our Facebook page, 99.7 and 1450 WHTC. Bob is adorning the CompuWare Whalers, and of course the old Hartford Whalers hat, legacy of Pete Carmanos, the Carolina Hurricanes owner. And I've mentioned before, one of my high school classmates is the current general manager of the Hartford Whalers, and Don Waddell. And a man, if he didn't bust his leg, would have been a part of the Miracle on Ice team in 1980. But let's talk a little hockey for a minute, then we'll talk about the election and other things, and you can join the conversation as well with Bob at 395-1450, 395-1450. Bob, I need to get your thoughts about NHL Commissioner Gary Bettman earlier this week saying, we're not going to give up the season without a fight. We've done too much, quoting or paraphrasing him, we've done too much to just say, well, that's it. We'll worry about 2021 instead. And your thoughts about at least trying to get something done, get some closure on the hockey season on the NHL level.
Yeah, I'm grateful for that. You know, it's funny. Our men's league team, the Coral Gables Whalers, our season just ended. One regular season game left, and then we're expecting 2 playoff games and a championship, and it's just frozen there on the standings. And you know, you want some closure there, and we, as Americans, we've got to have something like that to get back to living. You know, whether or not fans are allowed in the stands or whatever. You know, I don't want to see years from now, and you don't either, because you know what it's like years from now, an asterisk there in the history book as to who won the Stanley Cup. At times it's been canceled for whatever reason, or playoffs have been shortened or truncated. But I appreciate Commissioner Bettman's effort to do that for the fans, and I look forward to watching some form of games, whether it's a shortened playoff season or whatever. I think we deserve that, and just from a mental health frame of mind, we want to see normality come back and the beginning of some games, whether they're all played in Arizona or Las Vegas or what. I think it's a really good, healthy sign, and I appreciate that. And to tack onto that, I really appreciate Ferris State University. Their president said a couple of days ago they will hold in-person classes this fall, and I think that sends a great message to families. So you can always change if disaster occurs, but let's look forward. And let's be excited about that.
The other thing, of course, is the fact that the NHL and Mr. Bettman's situation, they do get the revenues from television and other things, but the minor leagues, most notably the AHL, they don't have that bigger revenue flow, and they had to basically give up the ghost on its season about a week or so ago. Again, no surprise in that situation.
Yeah, they need the fans in the stands to pay the bills. Sad to see that the AHL wasn't able to finish it out, but I'm excited that the NHL is still holding up an opportunity for that, and let's all pray that we get back to normalcy and the things that we love to do and see soon.
If you got a question for Bob Genetski, the Allegan County Clerk and Register of Deeds, he'll be happy to take it at 395-1450, 395-1450. Let's talk about the May 5th election. Some communities in Allegan County did have residents casting ballots. Talk a little bit, not so much about the turnout, but more about just the actual handling, the logistics of this particular election, how you saw it from your vantage point as the man who takes care of elections in Allegan County.
Well, first I want to commend our local clerks who just did a phenomenal job under some really weird circumstances. Again, I opposed holding the election. I felt that it should have been pushed back to the August ballot, and I implored the governor and the Secretary of State to do that so that more people could participate in the election. But they chose to push forward. So we had some phenomenal local clerks and election inspectors, Gary, who put on their face masks, they put on their eye shields, and they wore protective eyewear, as well as donning the rubber gloves and doing everything they could to sanitize voting areas and make it safe for voters to come in and cast their ballots, as well as receive an awful lot of absentee ballots. So very excited to see our locals just stepped up. Supposedly the issue back in Wisconsin a couple of weeks ago with all the lines at the polling locations were that too many election inspectors were afraid to participate. And so they had to reduce the number of jurisdictions or polling places that would have people show up to vote. We didn't have that problem at all in Allegan County. Everybody who usually participates as election inspectors showed up and very dedicatedly helped people who were at the polling locations to cast a ballot. So I was very proud of our efforts and that of local clerks. We had results up online at a very decent hour. I know you and Peg like to see that. And we were pleased to see for the jurisdictions in Hopkins Public Schools, Otsego Public Schools, Caledonia Public Schools, as well as Hudsonville Public Schools.
It was just a limited amount of elections. It does tend to, for some people to say, well, you know what, it works so well, maybe we need to do this moving forward, most notably the mail aspect of casting ballots. But you pointed out, I didn't point it out in our conversation with the Secretary of State, Jocelyn Benson, but you pointed out that like any human institution, Bob, unfortunately, there will be problems that do crop up because no human institution is 100% perfect.
Well, here's the situation, and I want to clarify something. I have no problem with absentee voting. It's in our Constitution. It's what the voters want. It's what they're entitled to at this point. I don't like mail-in elections, and there's a big difference. Mail-in elections is when everyone just gets mailed either an application to vote or a ballot. Out west in some states they're doing that. And as I showed to you previously, we had at least one 16-year-old get an application to vote from the Bureau of Elections. So there's two things going on there. One, don't ever turn over to the state, and this is very consistent for me, Gary, going back to as long as we've known each other in any office or any capacity I've held. Don't ever turn over to the state what your locals can do better, and our local clerks can do much better than what Lansing can do as far as managing elections. The state mailed out AV applications to everybody in each jurisdiction, and they're very proud of turnout. If we're worried about turnout, should have been shifted to the August ballot, right? Because turnout in August is always higher than a May election. Then in Hopkins, we had three family members who were mailed absentee ballot applications and then ballots to participate in the Hopkins election. And in fact, they live in Wayland Public Schools. Very thankful that election was dealt with, that was won by many more ballots than it was, because when you get into a situation like that, when people who shouldn't be participating in elections actually have some sway, it can create a lot of problems. And again, go back in your mind to a year ago in May, when that Saugatuck ballot went down by only 3 votes. What if we'd have had the state administering that and they'd been sending out AV applications and ballots to just about anyone? So again, I oppose all mail-in elections. I like the idea of precincts being open, safe, and healthy for people to participate. And I agree with people's opportunity to cast an AV ballot if that's what they desire to do. But I don't think that think about this as well. You had voters or you had taxpayers in Holland, Hamilton, and Zeeland that pulled their initiatives off the ballot. They said, we don't know if this is the right time for it. We're nervous about the COVID or whatever. They pulled their initiatives off the ballot, and yet their taxpayers ended up paying for the postage, the envelopes, the return envelopes, and all that, because the state took it over rather than the locals doing it. So I've got some fiscal concerns about all this mail-in nonsense as well.
395-1450 if you have a question for Allegan County Clerk and Register of Deeds Bob Genetski. He'll talk about elections. He can also talk about Register of Deeds. And I want to bring this back up because it's a subject that was, I'd say, about a year ago. And I think you brought it up, and I think also Justin Roebuck in Ottawa County brought it up as well. People having issues with their deeds because somebody is trying to pull it from under their own noses. It's almost as if some rustlers coming in and trying to take the property from the widow. It's still a problem, even though, it's sort of, the initial shock has certainly moved by. How is that? Are you still encountering some problems with, shall we say, some claim jumpers and deed breakers?
Great question, and I like the Old West analogies. Understand that this occurs because Michigan law allows anyone to come into a Register of Deeds office and record anything, provided that document he or she is trying to record meets the specifications of the type of print and the 1 inch all the way around, or whatever specs the state has set as far as what the document needs to look like. So Gary could be right now recording a deed, an easement on your property, where I've seen the beautiful ducks and whatever when you've taken pictures of them or video. So legally and by law, they can do that. And we've had a couple of people who have gone and recorded easements on people's property where it was not warranted or allowed by the property owner, and then it creates an unpleasant situation between property owners. I would say it happens most along the lakeshore and near rites of passage to waterways. But we've done one thing in an effort to combat that. One, keep in mind that all Allegan County residents, as well as people outside, can search online and look at any properties under their name. And in doing so online, they can see if there's been any deeds or any recordings that they did not approve of, in which case then they're going to want to contact that person or possibly even go to court to have that removed. They can also try some other means by recording another document saying that easement was never allowed or such. And then that could potentially end up in court. We are also looking at some software that would instantaneously notice somebody by email if they have requested, if someone has recorded something relative to a property that you own. That's a little more complex, and it's something that we're definitely working on, because I think I see some value for our taxpayers in doing that. But we have to take a look at what the cost would be.
I was going to say, it's almost as if, the services such as LifeLock, to try to prevent credit fraud, we might have to find, can the LifeLock people, or, now Norton owns them, do something, about deed fraud as well?
No, but it's a great analogy, and keep in mind, it's the biggest benefit of having these services online. I encourage anybody on a regular basis, once or twice a year, just look up your deed at AlleganCounty.org and go to the Register of Deeds office, to the searchable database, and see if there is any odd activity relative to your deed. You also sometimes see outstanding liens that you had forgotten. That might be perhaps you paid off a mortgage, but the lien didn't get taken off. It's good to have those things cleared up, and I encourage everybody to visit their own deeds online at AlleganCounty.org.
Bob, I'm not going to get into the legal aspects of the governor's Safer at Home executive order or the emergency powers that is being argued before a court of claims as we speak in this conversation. However, May 28th might be a target date for the resumption of some normalcy of activities in Michigan government and in local government. And that involves also the Allegan County Courthouse and when and how it might become reopened to the public. Tell us a little bit about that.
I appreciate you bringing that up, Gary. Understand that in my mind, the courthouse is a public building paid for by the taxpayers, and I like it better when they're here, when they get to visit for their business. We welcome the online business and the phone calls at 269-673-0450 if they have any questions or business to do by phone. But The courthouse is a better place when the public are moving in and throughout it. We are currently meeting with Human Resources, Allegan County Board of Commissioners, and the administration to figure out what's the best and safest way to make sure the building is entirely open to the public when we get past that May 28th date. My staff and I are making sure that we are disinfecting everything regularly. We've got our personal protection equipment on when we are meeting with the public. Understand that right now, while the building is not open to the public per se, if someone has a marriage license that's hanging out there or a date coming up real soon, we are processing those, and we're welcoming those people to make sure that they come down and get that paperwork. They're going to have to put on a mask when they come in the building. If they don't bring their own, one will be provided for them by the deputies at the front door. But we are looking forward to getting to that place where the general public is welcome back in, and we're making every provision we can to make sure that it's a safe and easy transition. But if people have emergencies, the building is open now. I would encourage them strongly to call first.
My first thought when you just mentioned about if they don't have a mask, one will be provided for them. Oh, we got a mask Miranda law now.
Well, it is the courthouse.
395-1450, 395-1450. I also want to bring up another point. Regular listeners saying, yeah, we've heard this before, but sometimes we get new listeners, and sometimes we have to remind people some of the services that your office do provide for veterans. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that, Bob?
Yeah, Gary, while we are not doing it right now because of the status of the courthouse, we encourage all of our veterans in and throughout Allegan County, when we are back open, to bring back in their papers of honorable discharges, or DD-214s as they're known in the military. Bring those in and process those. When they do that, we give them their original copy back. They need to bring in their original. We also give them 2 free certified copies, and they can use those as they apply for veterans benefits, whether those are VA benefits, whether they go to get that special veterans designation on their license, or whether they are applying for GI Bill benefits. But we make sure that forever and ever, their paper is processed on file here back with the heroes who won the Civil War for us, where their discharge papers are as well in the vault. And as long as that veteran or his or her family go to access veterans benefits, we provide the free service of certified copies going out, and it's our definite pleasure to do that. And as you bring that up, a little bit of a tease, we do have some exciting news for our veterans. We're not ready to release it because we want to do it once the building's open to the public, but it will be one of the most requested services that our veterans have asked since I've taken office, and we're getting real excited about when we can make that public.
I will ask you something, and we're going to go back and sort of circle around our entire conversation today, Bob Genetski, and it involves elections, and it involves registering or filing paperwork to be on the August ballot. I know it's a statewide situation, but the county clerks have got to be on the front lines with this as well. Where are we standing with this right now, Bob?
Well, keep in mind that the filing deadline has passed to appear in the August partisan primary. So any candidate who has a seat solely held within Allegan County would have had to file here at our office, and we received those filings. They are up online, so people can see what which candidates will be running for which offices on the August ballot at allegancounty.org/elections. There is still if somebody missed that filing deadline, and as you're aware, there were some court battles over signatures, and if people could defer their filing, any candidate that could file with just a $100 filing fee, which means candidates for state rep, candidates for any county offices, including county commissioner, and county candidates for township office within the county, they missed their opportunity to petition the court. They needed, as per the court ruling, to file back in late April, the 21st, for the filing deadline. If there's still someone who wants to run in the partisan primary for one of the primary offices, he or she can run as a write-in. That date is still outstanding, and they can gather signatures when it is acceptable legally and socially to do so, and then bring those petitions down here. Understand the governor did deem that elections are essential services, so if you do have petitions to bring in, you may bring those into the courthouse at any time along with your affidavit of identity.
And for the communities who might want to put ballot issues on, what's the deadline to get the paperwork for that?
The deadline for August just passed a couple of days ago. This past Tuesday at 4 p.m.
So, and then of course, November, it will be in September, I believe.
That'll be in September, yes, but I do want to jump back to the August ballot. Your wizard hat was on, Gary. It is a big August ballot with a lot on it because a lot of the jurisdictions that took things off for the May ballot have followed through and put that up on the August ballot.
We won't be able to take any more calls for Bob Genetski. We are out of time. Bob, as always, we appreciate you joining us here on the WHTC Talk of the Town program. Talk a little hockey, as well as talking about what's going on with your office. If all goes well, let's do this again next month.
Let's do it again next month. You, the entire WHTC staff, and all your audience are in my prayers for safety, health, and well-being.
Thank you very much, Bob Genetski, joining us on Talk of the Town here on 99.7 and 1450 WHTC. We will have Steve Catham with CBS News, Peg McNick with WHTC News after that, and then we'll finish up Talk of the Town with some open line here on 99.7 and 1450 WHTC.